I feel like.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first new eVP webinar for NCEP sourcing users. My name is Jeff. I'm with North Carolina eProcurement, and I will be joined by Zach, who you might know from our help desk, in a little bit. He's going to take over the screen for some presentations. We also have Lauren and Afua from our team. We're going to be managing the Q&A. Now, just a little bit of a disclaimer before we really get going. This is a Teams live session, which means that it is being recorded. So if you do not consent to being included in the recording, this would be the time for you to leave. The good thing about a recording, though, is that we will be able to publish this and provide you a link in the near future so that you can watch this. All right, so now we'll get into some logistics. And the first thing we want to cover is who is our intended audience for today. So this is going to be for procurement users who currently use NCEP sourcing to manage your solicitation. So if you are from a community college, an LEA, local government, and you don't use eProcurement sourcing right now, we'd suggest that you attend our sessions next Wednesday or on July 6th, where we'll be covering your side of the system. You're certainly welcome to stick around, but not all the information presented today is going to be applicable to you. Now, those of you that are still here want to talk about the Q&A. So in a Teams live session, there is no microphone, so no need to mute it. It just won't work. But we do want to encourage you to interact and ask questions. And so there should be a Q&A icon in the top right of your screen, maybe next to the leave button. Don't click the leave button. And so as we go through today, please ask your questions there. With a Q&A in Teams, there is a little field to put your name before you type your question, just above your question. And if you would please do that, that just makes it easier for us to understand who we're responding to if there's a string of questions, so we can provide you better and more accurate feedback. Otherwise, we get dozens of anonymous questions in there, and it's tough to link them together. Along those lines, in a Teams live session, you are experiencing this on a bit of a delay, maybe by about a minute. So we're actually presenting a little bit ahead of you. So if a question comes in a minute or two behind, it will be helpful if you are as specific as possible in what you're asking about in your question, so that we can piece together exactly what it is if it does come in a little bit behind of when we've actually talked about it. We will be answering questions back to you within the Q&A. We also will be taking pauses periodically to address some of those questions. And then overall, there may be questions that you put into the Q&A that we do not address, either written or verbally, in this session, but we are collecting all of the questions. We're compiling them in a document, and we'll be providing written answers that we'll be sending out to you on everything in the near future. So we will answer every single question. We just may not get it right today during this webinar. So that is setting the scene. Now let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So this is our goals and agenda for today. So first of all, we're scheduled to go around 90 minutes today. We are going to first, when we're done with this introduction, provide an overview of what we're calling the new eVP, the background of the upgrade, the timing of the transition, and how all these changes are going to impact you. Then we're going to go in, and I'm going to just give you a quick overview of the back end of the new eVP app, what you're going to be calling the agency app, and that's your access to this system. And it's essentially your new and improved version of IPS. And then we're going to get into some demos. So you'll see we're going to start off with creating a sourcing event in eProcurement. And that part, the whole creating a sourcing project, creating an event, getting approval from P&C or DIT, that's all staying the same. You'll see there's one major exception there, which I think you guys are going to really appreciate once we get in there, but we will show you that in the demo. So just want to set the stage that sourcing projects and sourcing events are still going to happen. You're still going to get your responses there. And so there's not a giant new learning curve on that whole aspect of things. So we will show you building that and how that's going to interact. And then we're going to show you, once your sourcing events gets published, how you will see that in the agency app. and then how all the vendors will see that in the public side of eVP. And then we're going to cover also then doing an addendum, which is going to be the same as you're doing it now, except again, there's one big change. It's really going to, I think, make things a lot more efficient for you. So Zach will show you all of that. Then we're going to get into the part after you receive responses and how you will handle the follow-up stuff in the new eVP agency app. So posting bid tabulations, posting award notifications, contract extensions. You'll see you're still going to get those approved through the contracts tool, and we'll show you how those are going to transfer over the notification of those into the new system. And then we're going to go through, just to wrap up, show you the public vendor search side of things, and public eVP and all the other things you can look for there. And then for certain people, if your role requires or you're responsible for doing hub reporting, there are some impacts to that with the new system. Zach's going to show you about that. If you do not do hub reporting, the demonstration will be over for you, and then we'll wrap up and talk about next steps at the very end. So that is what we have on the plate. And so let's just get started in letting you know about the new eVP. So got a slide here with some little cards that kind of describe what's going on and some logos, but just at its most basic level, the new eVP, it's a merging of the current version of IPS, where you're going to post notifications of the sourcing events that you publish in eProcurement, and the electronic vendor portal, or eVP, which already exists, and that's where vendors register their companies to do business with the state. So now going forward, it's going to be merged into one new supersized eVP, and it's going to have two sides of it. Your brand new side, which we're calling the agency app, and the vendor's upgraded side, the public eVP. And so because we're pushing these together, there's so many aspects of this vendor and state purchaser relationship that are going to improve because everything is closer. Now, a little bit of technical stuff. You'll see that it is moving to, the system will be based in the Microsoft cloud. So IPS has served the state for a long, long time very, very well, but it has some limitations technically. And the new system moving to the cloud is going to be a lot more flexible, a lot more room for data, a lot longer data retention because it's in the cloud. So all of that, this is going to impact you as procurement users. It's going to impact DOA and P&C administrators, and it's going to also impact the vendors, and everyone is going to feel the benefits from just much more new, modern, upgraded, agile system. So you'll see here we've got the current eVP logo, we've got IPS, they're going to come together, and we've also brought in the NCSBE and hub offices, which now have a lot more power in this system and are linked to this system as well to kind of streamline their ability to process certifications from vendors coming requesting into hub. So that is kind of an overview of this new upgrade. And this is just a visual representation of that. I've talked about a new supersized eVP with two sides. Well, here is a look at those two sides. So on the left side here, we've got the public eVP. So primarily this is for vendors, and they already have a version of this where they control their vendor registration, whether they control their account management, are they looking for hub, and all that. But what they didn't have before is they'd have to go to a whole another site, IPS, to learn about solicitations and to respond to certain solicitations or to get a link to respond to your events. Now it's at the same place. So for them, they go to one spot to do all of that, which is great. Then there's literally a public aspect to this, and that would be the public vendor search, which you're probably already familiar with, looking to see which vendors are registered in the system. And in that same spot now, your solicitation notifications are going to be published there too. So that is the public side of things, where you can see how your solicitations, once they are created in Ariba, are now going to transfer over into the new system for kind of public notification. Then on the right side is what we're calling the back end, and you'll see you guys are boxed out here, and you will use the agency app. But there's also an ability for the state's users, the PNC administrators, they will get into the system and in what's called the admin app. And then there's also Hub users are now in the system and the Hub app. So it's all one platform, just kind of different levels of ability to do different things in there. But you guys are coming in here through the agency app, and this is where solicitations that you create in Ariba will be posted in the system for you to kind of see the information that came over. And then once you get your responses, you'll be able to handle tabulations, awards, and all that. You are still receiving responses in your event. There is bid opening here listed on this slide, but that is for users from community colleges and local government agencies that don't have Ariba sourcing. But you will see all of that in due time. And then PNC and Hub have the ability to kind of do their administrative stuff there too. So this is a visual of this kind of supersized eVP with everything under one platform and just two sides of it that really is going to bring the state and vendor relationship a little bit closer, which is going to be a good thing for everyone. Now, before we get into showing you what the back end of that eVP looks like, we need to talk about the timing of this transition here, because that is going to affect you. As you know, you don't just create a solicitation and post it in the same day. There's weeks of kind of preparation of you getting your documents in order, of PNC approving it back and forth, all of that. So it is likely that you have some solicitations that are either already posted out there and that are in the process, or you are working on them to post very soon. And we want you to be aware of certain dates and the impacts of posting around certain dates. So the big thing right here is July 10th. That's the go live of the new system. So you can see right there, that's a Monday, and the new system will be up and running, and sign in and start working in that system on that day. But leading up to that, June 30th is going to be the last day that you can actually post a full solicitation in the current IPS. Now, to be able to open that, kind of open your bids in your event, but have the due date posted in IPS currently, and then be able to open things before this date of July 17th, everything needs to have a due date of July 7th. So if you are posting on June 30th, you're probably not giving your vendors enough time to open by July 7th. So what we would say in general, if you are considering posting a solicitation within the next 8 days or so, if it is at all possible for you to have patience, it's not a super urgent thing, you may want to wait until July 10th and post it so everything is in the new system from the start. And you'll see here that we can't open, if it can't be opened by July 7th, you can't have another bid opening until July 17th. So if you have the ability to wait, we might suggest that. If you have something that's already in the system and the opening date is after July 17th or after, because right now, if you tried to post something, the system will prevent you from doing a bid opening within this window here. Then it will automatically be converted over into the new system. So it will start in IPS and then end up in eVP, and we'll teach you how to manage that, and we're going to help you through that process. There aren't a lot of things in the system right now that fall under that category, but if you were about to post something and you couldn't get it closed by July 7th, you may want to consider just waiting if it's not super urgent and doing it on the 10th or 11th and then having it all in the new system. Now, there's a lot of perhaps, what about this? What about that? If you have a specific solicitation that is falling around these dates, get in touch with the eProcurement Help Desk, and we can kind of brainstorm with you and help you figure out, okay, why don't you do this or that, or the direct impact on your solicitation that's kind of falling around here. So we can walk you through that in individual instances, but hopefully this helps you out a little bit. You can still do, like say, during this time, you can still post an addendum that may just include the Q&A answers. That doesn't change the timing to somewhere in here, but just be aware you can't post new solicitations anywhere from June 30th until July 10th, and there's a couple weekends and a holiday in there. And then if anything is supposed to open on July 7th and you need to extend the timing, it just can't be within this window. It would have to move over into the new system over there. So those are some details on how that's going to work. You're still going to, no matter if it is in the current posting in IPS or it will be posted in eVP, you're still going to open your responses in your sourcing event, all that. It's just how this gets posted and the timing of that. So one last thing on the timing of the current IPS, it's going to stay available for the public to see until October 10th. So if you try to find IPS on October 11th, it will be gone. But that is because for current things that are already in the system and opened up by July 7th, you need to process bid tabulations and award notifications. And so the last day to kind of post awards is going to be August 10th. That'll give them be able to live out there for 60 days up until October 10th. So that is just something to keep in mind. But any specific questions on the timing of one of your events that is currently out there and maybe impact on that, get in touch with the help desk and we can help walk you through that. So that is a look at sort of the overall what this upgrade is, the timing of it. And before we move on into the system, are there any questions that we want to address right now in the chat, Lauren?
There are not currently, no.
Not currently. Okay, well, we will move on then. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about logging in. So that'll be the first thing. And then I'm going to get in and kind of give you a tour of the homepage before I go ahead, switch it over to Zach, and he shows you all the cool demo stuff. So this is just a screenshot here. We don't have the URL yet, but eventually when you log in, it will be just like everyone has transitioned within the past couple months or so into an email and MFA confirmation. That's how logging into the eVP backend for users that use eProcurement will work too. So you should be familiar with the screen like this. Your email, your password, you get the text, phone call, however it's working, or if there were exemptions made for certain people at certain facilities, all that is going to remain the same for you there. So that is that. Now, once I did log in, this is what the homepage is going to look like. But I'm going to get out of this PowerPoint and take you over into our training environment to show you that with a little bit more flexibility. So I've got this pulled up here. And actually, before I do that, I've got the eProcurement website up that I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of it. You all should be very much aware of this as you use the system. But you know, we've got our helpful sections up at the top. Training is one. Obviously, we've got sourcing training there. So those job aids, and you'll see those are being updated. We'll also have additional job aids for you on how to use this new system. Now, IPS, the system that you have been posting in, that wasn't kind of under the official eProcurement umbrella. So we didn't have job aids and trainings on that side of the system on our website. Going forward, we are much more involved with that at the eProcurement office and our help desk and all that. So we will have job aids and much more visibility into that system on our side. So that information will be here. As well, you guys are hopefully all aware of the help desk, and the help desk, as well as continuing to help with your sourcing event and purchase orders and all that, and then your contract workspaces afterwards. We now are going to be much more able to help you out with the agency app and your public postings and all of that. So the same with on the vendor side of things, we're going to continue to do that. So just be aware that our support is continuing, and in fact, it's expanding because we have so much more visibility into this new upgraded eVP system. So all that is there, and then just keep your eyes on the training site as we get closer to go live on July 10th for new and improved updates. And then as we scroll down, obviously public vendor search, the URLs are not pointing to the real system yet, but this is how you could get to the public vendor search. There may be some changes here. We may have a tile to log into the eVP backend. So all of that will be changing as we get closer to July 10th, but we are still going to be here to support you in everything that you are doing. Now, I showed you the slide of logging in with my MFA. Had I done that, this is what the homepage looks like. So You'll see here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of give you a tour of what we're calling the navigation panel on the left-hand side, just to make sure you're aware of what you're looking at. And then Zach's going to take over in a sourcing project to show you how you'd start something to bring that information over to here. So your homepage, there are these defaulted dashboards. And what you'll see here, this is just a representation of the types of solicitations that are in the system for the user that I am. And the interesting thing about this is, as I scroll down, you'll see here, what it's going to do is it's going to show me, I have visibility in the system to all the solicitations that were created by anybody in my agency. So if I'm at DPI, I not only see the things that I created, if there's 2 other people at DPI that are doing sourcing events and solicitations, I'll be able to see their things here. And I'm going to show you the difference between mine and theirs. But everything, you have really good visibility across your agency. So you can see here on the homepage, you've got just these representations of everything, and it's kind of the system defaults to what shows here. I think as we go down further, you'll see that there are some things that are much more customizable to you, in particular recent. So I think this is really helpful. So as you click on various parts of this or specific solicitations, it will show you what are the last things you're doing. So if you're working on 2 solicitations, or you can kind of bounce back and forth with those without searching for them. You can see, okay, yeah, I was just at this one, and then I was just at that one, and this is, I think, a helpful thing for you. Even more so beyond that is, you see the little pin icon here. For any of these things that I have just recently done, I can pin them, and it will show up in this part here. So right now, I only have 1 solicitation pinned, but if I'm working on something, I can put it in your pinned, means it's really taking the most recent of the recent things. And so I can go back there and just kind of work on it until it's already awarded and I don't need it anymore. And then you just click the unpin icon and it disappears. But you can really customize the things that you are directly working on right at that time, which is great. As we scroll down more, now we've got a vendor side here. And so I'm going to click on vendors, and I think this is a nice thing for you too. So we've got the public vendor search that Zach is going to show you later on. But we've also got an internal vendor search. So if it makes more sense, if you like it better to search for vendors within this agency app, go ahead and do that. It's the same information. It's just a little different interface as far as finding it. So as you get into this new system and you play around and you see what you're more comfortable with, whether you like the internal vendor search, which I'm showing here, or the public vendor search that you're probably familiar with, that is going to be up to you. So I've got a listing of these vendors here. We're in our test environment, so there's not a lot, there's some weird data in here, but let's just say, all right, I want to find any vendor that has janitor and anywhere in there for janitorial. You always want to search with root words anywhere in their profile. You'll see here, I typed in an asterisk. Asterisks are always helpful in your search field. There's also filters here. I won't get into that. You could filter, but I just use the search. And look, I've got all of these vendors that have the word janitor in their system. It looks like there's 78 in the system, but then they're Amaze Clean. What is that? That doesn't have, it seems like it would make sense. And you can see here, it found it in the website. So the search is pretty powerful. It's going to bring you up a lot of information. And then this is what, if you're looking at a vendor record within the system, this is what it's going to look like. So you got the name, you've got all this information that you would see elsewhere, how they registered, and then their contacts and their location and their commodity codes and all of that. So if it is helpful for you to do a vendor search within the tool, you have that ability now, which I think is nice. Now we're going to get down to the solicitations part, and this is going to be the meat of our presentation, and Zach's going to take over and show you how something would end up here. But when you click on this tab, you get My Active Solicitations, and these would be solicitations that you started in Ariba, and they came over here, and these are ones that you have done. And then if you click on it defaults to My, but if you click on Active, then this would show you all of the other solicitations that other people within your agency. So again, if I'm DPI, I can see all the DPI ones. I can't see Department of Insurance. I can't see DOA. I can't see DHHS. but I can see my own. I think that's really nice there. And so you could look in and maybe help someone else do that. And this is not tied to the team tab. The sourcing event is still tied to your team tab. But even if you're not on the team tab in a sourcing event, you will be able to see the output of that sourcing event over here in the eVP system. So we're going to talk about how that transfers over. You'll see that there's tabulations, award contract extensions. All of those are also available off of if you actually click on one of your solicitations here. So you'll see that bids, bids not quite as much for you. You'll ignore that, but those other things are there. Zach's going to show you a much better version of this, but that is kind of just an overview of your navigation of this system. I'm about to switch it over to Zach, but before we do that, Lauren, is there any other questions that popped up in the Q&A that we want to address before Zach goes into the demo?
I don't think so. I've answered most of them in the chat.
Awesome. Well, Zach, if you want to take over the screen, look at that. We are in a sourcing project that you've already created, and that, again, that's going to stay the same. And Zach, why don't you take it away?
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everyone. So as Jeff mentioned, I'm actually in a sourcing project that I've already created for this webinar today. Reason why I already created it is because the creation process for actually creating a sourcing project isn't changing at all. So that's going to remain the exact same as it's been for you guys. I did want to highlight a couple of quick kind of small differences or small changes. So if you actually click on the tasks tab, or if I click on the tasks tab, and then if I expand phase 5 and phase 6, we'll notice that some of our tasks names have updated. For example, post-preliminary bid tabulation at eVP has updated. It used to be post-preliminary bid tabulation IPS. So essentially what happened is just anywhere that we had IPS in the name of a task, we've updated it to eVP to reflect the updates going on in the system. But now let's go ahead and actually start creating a sourcing event. And for the sake of this webinar, we're going to assume that I've already gone through the approval processes for getting permission to actually publish this one. So then if I just go ahead and give it a title. And then I'm also going to give it a description so that it transfers over to eVP with this field filled in. So in this case, I'm just going to say janitorial services 2023 to 2026. And once I hit OK, the system will move us onto our rules tab. Nothing's changing on the rules tab, so I'm going to scroll down to my timing rules. I'm going to change my due date from duration to fixed time. And for this one, I'm going to say we're going to give them 2 weeks. So we're going to give them till July 6th. And I'm going to say we're opening on, or the due date is at 2 p.m. on July 6th. So then just like currently, we advise going from your rules tab to your content tab. So essentially going 1, 3, then 2, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and click on 3 for content. Content tab really isn't changing. Same thing, going to scroll down to section 3.1, click edit content. I'm going to go ahead and replace the sample blank document with the actual completed solicitation document from my files. Hit OK. And then click the blue done button. So now we'll see that 3.1 has been updated. If I wanted to, or if I needed to, I could continue to kind of customize the content section so that it meets the specifications necessary for my solicitation. But I'm going to say that, hey, we just actually need to update 3.1 and the rest of it looks good. So now I'm going to click back on section 2 for supplier. So this is where we'll see the big change that Jeff was kind of alluding to earlier in the presentation. So once the suppliers tab loads, you'll notice that we no longer have the discovery suppliers tab or discovery suppliers listed here. We just have this invited participants section. So you do need to invite a participant. We've actually created a participant that you can invite to all your normal solicitations, which is NCE procurement sourcing. And then once you select the box next to your participant, you can hit the OK button. So sometimes it might be necessary to invite a different supplier. For example, if you're doing like a sole sourcing situation, then instead of doing NCE procurement sourcing, you would actually invite the specific vendor that's involved in the sole sourcing opportunity. But for the most part, any standard or normal solicitations, you should use NCE procurement sourcing. Now that I've added them to my suppliers tab, I can go ahead and click on number 4, my summary tab. And again, just like before, summary tab is providing us a summary of the details of our sourcing event. So I can kind of scroll through, see the details of said sourcing event. And once I'm satisfied with said details, I can hit this blue publish button up in the upper right-hand corner, just like normal. And then we're going to get a message letting us know that, hey, you've published your sourcing event. What do you want to do next? I'm going to select monitor. And then it's going to pull up our sourcing event. And in our upper right-hand corner, we'll see a little countdown clock with how much time's remaining. I'm actually going to grab this document number. So the cool thing about the new system is that this sourcing event or solicitation will actually automatically post over to the backend eVP, to public eVP, and to the Hub Opportunities page as well. So after I grab this document number, I can go to the backend. So again, this is what Jeff was showing you earlier in the presentation. I can click on the Solicitations tab from the navigation panel on the left-hand side here. And so the way our current environments are set up is I'm kind of logged in here as myself, but when I'm logging into the Ariba test environment, I'm more of a general user. So my solicitation I just created isn't actually going to show up on my active solicitations. It's going to show up under active solicitations. And like Jeff was saying, when you do click on active solicitations, you'll see any active solicitation that anybody under your business unit or NC has kind of submitted. So I'm going to use this little filter by keyword search box to kind of search for the document number or the solicitation number of my solicitation. And then I can double click on it and it'll pull up and it'll show you some of the basic details about the solicitation. And then the documents tab will actually show you the solicitation document that I uploaded while creating the sourcing event. So next, I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the public facing side. So this is what the public eVP will look like. And you'll notice up in the upper right hand corner, it says sign in because I haven't actually signed in as a vendor at this moment. And there are two options of getting to the solicitation search. You can either click on solicitations from this upper section up here, or you can hit this browse solicitations button. Once you click either of those options, it will bring you to the solicitations search page. And you'll notice that there's a little filters section down here that you can click and expand. And then you have a whole bunch of filters that you can use to search for specific solicitations, including the solicitation status. So if you were, wanted to just look through kind of the awarded or, any open solicitations in your department, you could use this filter and then you could select your department. In this specific instance, I actually have the solicitation number that I'm looking for. So I'm going to paste my solicitation number in the search box right here and then hit this magnifying glass to search for it. So we actually did get a bit lucky because there is a 15-minute global caching situation that occurs between the back-end eVP and the public-facing eVP. So what that essentially means is it can take up to 15 minutes from your solicitation or from things that you post in the back-end eVP to kind of transfer over to the public side. And when I say it can take up to 15 minutes, sometimes it might go pretty much instantly. Sometimes it might take the full 15 minutes, and there can be anywhere in between. As you've noticed, though, I haven't been talking for 15 minutes since we've actually completed our solicitation, and it's already posted over here. So then as we kind of pull up the solicitation, you'll notice it has the basic details, the opening date, the posted date, commodity code that we selected, the description, that I input while creating the sourcing event, my attachment, and then it has an addenda section, a tabulation section, and award section. So obviously these 3 sections are blank right now because we haven't actually done anything with our solicitation that would fall into the criteria of those 3 sections. So again, just to recap, because I think this is a huge deal for you guys, but after you click publish on that sourcing event, it will automatically transfer over to backend eVP, to public eVP, to the hub bids opportunity page, meaning you guys no longer have to go from Ariba sourcing to IPS posted there. And it has some other further implications that are huge for you guys, and I think that you'll really enjoy, that we'll actually get into next. But I'm going to actually pause right here. And Lauren, were there any questions for us about that that we want to go over in the webinar?
Yeah, Zach. So a couple of questions around step 2 within sourcing, which I believe is where we're adding a vendor, which is a change in process. So if you could review that again. We had one question about what if you don't know the participant. I think that's related to this step, and then just asking for more clarification about step 2.
Yeah, so step 2, unless you're doing a specific, if you're doing just kind of a normal solicitation, you should just always add NCE procurement sourcing, and then it will function properly where it'll transfer over to the public facing EVP, and then vendors will get notifications on a nightly basis based off the commodity code selected in the solicitation, what commodity codes they have selected. So if you are just doing a run-of-the-mill, hey, you know, we're posting this up, we want everybody to kind of see it and be able to see it and respond to it, just put NCE procurement sourcing. You don't have to add any additional vendors other than that. One of the kind of different scenarios is if it's a sole sourcing opportunity. In that case, instead of putting NCE procurement sourcing, you'd want to put the specific vendor. But if you don't know who the vendor is and you're at that point where you're publishing the sourcing event, then most likely that sounds like it's a general sourcing opportunity, or, you know, so in that case, you would just put NCE procurement sourcing user, which doesn't link to a specific vendor. That's just a kind of, I don't want to call it a dummy account, but that's an account that we created up for the purpose of those kind of general solicitations where you're truly posting it out there to get, you know, as many vendors as you can responding to it, so you can, you know, get the best details in their responses and the best details for your potential contract.
Right. So just to summarize again what Zach was saying, so unless you are doing a sole source solicitation, the only vendor that you should add is the NCE procurement sourcing vendor, and that allows systematically for the solicitations to be posted publicly. And then the vendor has a process where they will indicate that they intend to participate from the public EVP site.
Right. So just to continue off that, if I was currently signed in, I would actually be able to click on that intends to participate button. And then once I clicked it on that intends to participate button, the system would actually manually add the logged in vendor to your suppliers tab on the Ariba side. And that vendor would get an email with a link that they could then click on to sign into Ariba network and respond to their bid.
Zach, do we have another solicitation where you could show adding the supplier on step 2?
I don't believe so. Let me just scroll through real quick. Don't have one pre-made already. Well, actually, I do have this one I can do real quick. So again, I'm going to kind of speed run through these other steps because it doesn't sound like we had questions about these, but I'm just going to say janitorial services 629. Okay. Rules, again, just kind of setting this one out for a week just so we can kind of move to our second section. Perfect. So now we're on this. Once it loads, we'll be on the suppliers tab. And then again, we'll hit invite participants. And then since this is just a normal solicitation, it's not sole source or any other special circumstances like that, we can type in NC eProcurement sourcing, and it will pull up in our search results. And we can check the box to the left of the NC eProcurement sourcing, click OK, and then we're good to go. Are we good to move on, you think, Lauren, or do we need some further explanations on this topic?
I think we're good. Thank you for showing that again.
No problem. So now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to show you creating an addendum on our solicitation. So I'm going to go back to the solicitation where we actually finished creating the event. So I actually have the workspace number, so I'm just going to search for it to make it simple. And then I'm going to go back to monitoring the sourcing event. And so again, we're on the monitor sourcing event. This should look the same to you guys. Nothing really is changing about this page. So similar to today, to actually go ahead and create an addendum or to edit our sourcing event, we're going to click the actions button, then click the edit option. And then if we go down to content section, so the specific thing that I'm going to add to this one is our responses to vendor questions and answers. So I'm going to add them on the content tab, again, number 3 on the left-hand side, and I'm going to add them on the 3rd section of said content tab. So I'm going to click add attachment from desktop. I'm going to click this choose file option. Select my file, and then I'm going to give my new section just a little description. So answers to vendor Q and A. Hit done. And we'll notice that our section 3.5 has been successfully created. So that's the only thing I want to do to this solicitation currently. So I'm going to actually hit this summary tab. Then you'll notice on our summary tab, just like today, it shows us what changes are currently pending. I'm going to hit the update button. And then I'm just going to add a simple note, added responses to vendor Q and A. And again, we still recommend using the keep an email function when adding addendum or when updating the sourcing event. Just that way you can keep your existing responses and notify any participants like, hey, we made an update. And now I'm going to click update event. And then I'm going to select monitor event. So now I'm going to go back to our back end. I'm going to look at our sourcing, solicitation. Actually, I probably need to let it refresh a little bit. And now we actually have an addenda tab because I just created that addendum in the Ariba sourcing side, and you'll notice it automatically posts over here. Again, we do have a 15-minute caching situation, so it may not have made its way over here, but I'll just do a quick refresh just to check it out. Because if it has, then you guys can see it, and it has. So you'll notice that the answers to vendor Q&A document has been uploaded into our attachment section, and in our addendum section, it lists the addendum that we just created. So again, this is from the public side, so anybody can go in here and see that. So I'm actually going to create one more addendum. And this time I'm going to actually extend the event out because this is another place where I think is a huge advantage and a huge upgrade for you guys. So to extend it out, just like we would before, we'll hit this blue actions button. We'll hit extend timing. And then let's say instead of 2 weeks, we want to give them 3 weeks. So we're going to give them to the 13th. And again, we're going to keep it at 2 p.m. I'm going to hit this blue OK button. Our timer up in the upper right hand corner updates, and we don't actually have to go to any other tabs and update them there, and we don't have to go to IPS and update them there as well, because this update will actually post automatically over to the backend eVP side and to the public side. So let me go ahead and hit refresh over here on the back end, and we'll notice our addendum is here. And then if I go to the public side, we'll see if we can get lucky a 3rd time today and hit refresh. So it doesn't look like it's made it its way over here. So I'll try refreshing one more time. And if that doesn't work, then we'll kind of move on to the next section and then we'll come back to this one here. Perfect. So here we go. Hit refresh one more time. Our second addendum has been updated here. And then if we notice that our opening date should be updated as well. So now what we'll do is we'll actually go through creating a bid tabulation. So the bid tabulation process is actually going to be created using the backend eVP. However, you'll still be opening up the envelope and doing all that stuff on the Ariba side of things, and that's how you'll get your information for said bid tabulation. But the actual bid tabulation will be completed on the eVP side of things. So nothing's changing with the process of actually opening the envelopes and viewing the responses. It's just when it comes down to the time for you to post your preliminary or your final bid tabulations, you'll do that process on the backend eVP side of things. So I actually previously created a solicitation that is in its pending selection stage or has reached its opening date. So again, I'm in active solicitation, searching for the document number, and I can double click to pull up my solicitation. And we'll notice that now that our solicitation's in the pending selection status, we have a tabulations tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click on tabulations. So there are two options for types of tabulations that you can post in eVP. There's post vendor totals only, and then there's post all bid items. So post all bid items would be the tabulation type that you would use if you wanted to have your tabulation include the specific pricing for each line item. So say your solicitation was asking for pricing for 3 line items and you want to show what each vendor specifically bid for each line item, then you would use post all bid items. Post vendor totals is exactly what it sounds like. You're saying, hey, vendor A bid, X, vendor B bid Y. So for the purposes of this webinar, I'm going to do post vendor totals only because I think this is going to be the most popular choice. So after making sure that we have the correct tabulation posting method selected here, I'm going to select this new tabulations button down here in the tabulation section. And it's going to take me to a new screen. So right now I'm going to say, hey, I'm just posting my preliminary bid tabulation. So I'm simply going to add a vendor to my tabulation. That again. All right, we'll try using the advanced lookup. Let me try going back and going in. It doesn't seem to be cooperating with my search right now. Okay. For the sake of moving this forward, I'm going to select a specific vendor, but we may have just run into a little bug right there. So I'm going to say our first one is diverse point. And then I'm going to hit save and close. And then I'm going to hit the plus new tabulations button. And then for this next one, we're going to say it's and Marketing Inc. and hit save and close again. So now we have 2 vendors in our tabulation section. We don't have any prices yet because, again, we're saying we're posting the preliminary bid tabulations. So what we're going to actually do now is we're going to hit this post tabulation button from this command bar up top. And once we click that, we'll get a little message saying post tabulation confirmed, just basically asking us to confirm that we do want to post the bid tabulation. So once I go ahead and click this OK button, and now you'll notice that we have an additional award tab here. And then I'm going to look for this one. Again, due to the 15-minute caching situation, this one we might not have given enough time to update. And if it hasn't, we will go back and go ahead and pull up or go through our next section. So again, pulling up this specific solicitation. And you'll notice that in our tabulation section, both of our vendors are listed and that there's no information about the price. We can actually hit view more details to view more details, but at this point, there's actually not really anything else for us to view because we haven't added any prices to them. So let's say now we're actually going to go ahead and post our final bid tabulation. What we'll do is we'll come back to our tabulations tab, and we'll actually select the radio button next to our tabulation and then select this edit button. And once we hit that edit button, we're back on our tabulation. We can actually put a price. So we're going to say that and marketing was $70,000 and then hit save and close. If we wanted to, we could add a comment. We could check the option for requesting price match or any of these other options as well. For the sake of this one, I'm just going to leave it simple. I'm going to put the total price in here. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to edit our tabulation for diverse points. So if we click edit, we're going to say they bid $75,000 and hit save and close. And I'm just going to hit save again from our command bar. So there's no post bid tabulation button again. There's no need to come in here and try and create additional entries. Once you move from your preliminary bid tabulation to your final bid tabulation, you'll simply click on the tabulation. And then once you do click on it, you'll receive the edit option, which you can then edit to add the additional details for your final bid tabulation. And then let's see if I get lucky here. I'm going to go back to the public facing side and hit the refresh button. And we'll notice that our prices have been updated. Perfect. So I'm going to pause here. Lauren, were there any questions from the chat that we wanted to kind of go over while we're still in the tabulation section?
Yes, and this one has come up before. So how do you complete the bid tabulation if one of the responding vendors is not registered in e-procurement? In order for a vendor to respond to a solicitation, they must be registered in eVP. So to be able to click that intends to participate button, they would need to have an account. They don't have to be registered for eProcurement or Hub, but they do need to be registered for eVP.
Thank you, Lauren. I wasn't even thinking about that. Any other questions?
I think that's all for right now.
Perfect. So now that we've covered posting bid tabulations, we'll move on to posting award notifications. So we'll come back to our backend eVP, and we're going to stay on the same solicitation that we created these two tabulations for. And this time we're actually going to click on the awards tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to click this plus new award button. And now if we click on our little magnifying glass, you'll notice that we only have two options here for our awards, which matches up with our two vendors that we created the tabulations for. So I'm actually going to use and marketing because they had the lower price. I'm going to enter in the award amount and the award date. So those are the only two other required fields other than vendor. If you wanted to, you could add the purchasing agent, you could add, these other fields. If you do select price match award, you will get some additional fields that you can fill out as well, but they're not required. And once you're done with your award, you'll hit save and close. And then you'll see your award listed in the all awards section. After you've done that, if you come up to the command bar, you can hit post award. And then you'll get this little warning or confirmation message just saying, hey, if you click OK on this confirmation message, this award will be posted to the public side and vendors will be able to view it. So I'm going to hit OK. And then if I come back to our public facing side, I'm going to hit refresh. And you'll notice that in our awards section, it lists the vendor that we awarded it to, the amount that we put in, and the date we awarded it on. So that covers posting award notifications. Next, we'll move on to contract extensions. So contract extensions. So again, these are not contract renewals. So if it's something that's pre-negotiated in the solicitation when you're originally getting approvals from PNC and publishing and all that kind of stuff, this is not the section for that. This is the section for, hey, you've come to the end of the contract and you realize that, hey, we probably don't have enough time, or there's some other circumstance where we're not going to be able to get this rebid in time and we need it. So you decide to extend the contract. The approval process for this is remaining the same. So I've actually already created a contract workspace that we can go into, and we'll actually assume that we've already gotten any approvals necessary for this contract extension. And actually at this point, I've already created the amendment and I've already updated my contract amount and I've updated my expiration date to reflect our contract extension. So the last step over here on the ePro side or on the Ariba side is to hit actions and publish. But again, this part of the process isn't changing. You would still go through any tasks that you need to go through for your extension, get any approvals that you need to get to for your extension. Then you would hit the contract attributes actions button, hit amend, update your attributes to reflect your extension, and then click this publish button. So the timing for contract extensions is a little bit different. They're actually posted overnight onto the public eVP side of things. So since I literally just clicked that option to publish my amendment, and you'll notice it's the version 2, this one's not going to make it over to the eVP side of things until tomorrow. So I actually did one yesterday so that we could take a look at what it looks like on the public eVP side. So to get to contract extensions on the public eVP side of things, you would click on the extensions option up here in the top right corner. And then you can use this little search bar to search for a variety of different things, but I actually have the external ID number or the CW number from Ariba, so I can use that. So once I hit enter, you'll notice that it pulls up with the details of the extension. And then you can actually click this little down arrow and click awarded vendors to see the more details in the awarded vendor. And that is a contract extension. So again, if you're working on a contract extension and it doesn't post over immediately, that's not the system not working. These actually post overnight. So wait until tomorrow, the next morning. And then if you're still having issues and you're still not able to see it, contact the help desk and, we can troubleshoot some various things with you. So I think this is a good place to kind of go over some of the timing situations with the system. So again, solicitations, 15 minutes is there's the global 15-minute caching situation. So if you don't see it immediately, come over to the public facing side of things, wait 15 minutes. And if you still don't see it, reach out to us and we can, troubleshoot some stuff with you. Contract extensions, they post overnight. So again, if you hit publish on it and don't see it over in the contract extension search immediately, that's expected. It's expected that it would be there the next morning for you. Lauren, did we have any questions before we wanted to move on to our public vendor search section of this demo?
I don't believe we have any questions in the chat.
Perfect. So to get to the public vendor search from our homepage, there's 2 spots. You can click on the vendors option from this menu up top, or you can click on this browse vendors option or button. So after you click browse vendors or the vendor option from up top, the vendor search page will load up and it immediately has 6 filters that you can use to search. This first search filter actually uses multiple filters to search for things, such as vendor name and customer number, among other things. But then you also have a specific vendor name, specific customer number, hub statistic or hub certification status, NCSBE certification status. And then we actually have many more filters that you can access by clicking this little arrow next to advanced search. And if you scroll down, you'll notice we have a whole bunch of filters relating to a vendor's NC procurement status, such as, when they were specifically registered, are they IRS, what their IRS verification status is. We also have filters built around NCSBE and hub, around contractor services, around their contacts and locations. But I think the most exciting one is the commodity and construction codes ones, because in the old public vendor search, you'd actually have to expand like each category to see the codes that are underneath it. Now we actually have this add KMI codes button functionality. And so once we click this, it actually pulls up like a search screen. So we can search for various things. So I'm going to try searching for janitor. And you'll notice that all the codes having to do with janitor or janitorial or anything like that, kind of using the root word like Jeff was saying earlier, pop up here. But we can actually customize this further. So if I'm looking for janitorial services, remember our service codes start with 7, 8, or 9. So I'm going to actually sort our list based off codes, and I want the highest codes to start with. So I clicked code twice, and we'll notice that 761100 populated. So once I check the box next to this code, I can hit this add button and it'll add it. But if there were other codes that I wanted to include in my search, I could continue checking boxes. In this instance, I'm just going to search for this one code, and then I'm also going to apply one other filter. So if I'm looking for a vendor that's going to provide janitorial services for me, then I want them to be active in e-procurement so that they can actually receive a purchase order from the NC procurement system. So now that I've added my 2 filters, I can scroll down here and I can hit this blue search button. And then depending upon how complex your search is and how many results are, this may take a couple of seconds to kind of load here. I'm actually going to try refreshing because it's taking a little bit longer than normal. So this is actually a known bug that we are working on. So it's basically when a user is not currently signed in, the search results don't populate here, but I could hit this export to Excel button and export them still. So that is a bug we're working on. So I'm actually going to try going back, and I'm going to actually throw another filter in here just to try and refine my searches a little bit, or my search a little bit further. So I'm going to say I want a vendor who is active for NC procurement. And you know what? I actually want a vendor that is certified for Hub. So let me scroll down to the bottom here and hit this blue search button. Okay, so we're running into this bug again, but normally this information would fill out with the vendors that are populated, and then we could actually try clicking on it again. What I'm going to try and do real quick is I'm going to clear my cache and cookies and just see if maybe that will get it to work. So hang with me for just a second here. But if this doesn't work, we'll move on to our next section. And we may send out some screenshots. Alrighty. Actually, you know what? I'll just sign in as a vendor. So even after you've signed in as a vendor, you can still use that search. And this will actually show you guys what the sign-in screen for a vendor looks like. So again, you have some further options, but you still have the vendor option. So this time, we'll go back to my original search, which was for an active NC procurement vendor with that janitorial services KMI code. And then we'll hit this blue search button. And now you can see these search results. So again, we're in a testing environment, so some of these vendors may not have all the data that they normally would have in the production environment. But if I did want more information about a specific vendor's information, I can try clicking on the vendor name, and then it'll pull up here. And let's say, for example, I want to see what other KMI codes this vendor is registered with. I can click this KMI codes tab from the left-hand side, and it will show me the list of KMI codes that they've registered under. If I wanted to, view where this vendor was located at, I could see their locations, and then I could hit view details, and this will kind of give me some more information about said vendor's details. Lauren, were there any questions about public vendor searching before we move on to our next, and I believe our last demo actually, which is for Hub Statistics.
I don't think we have any questions that I haven't. I've answered some in the chat.
Perfect. Alrighty. So again, like Jeff was saying at the beginning, this Hub Statistics demo may not apply to all of you, depending on if it's in your role or your responsibilities to actually submit Hub Statistics reports. But if it does, really cool. That is handled in the eVP backend. So if we, on our navigation panel on the left-hand side, if we click on Hub Statistics, so it looks like since I cleared my cache and cookies, I have to sign in again. So let me do that real quick. Alrighty, and now I am back in the eVP backend app and the agency app specifically. So if I click on Hub Statistics, you'll notice that a bunch of records here. So you wouldn't normally expect to have like 4 or 5 fourth quarter fiscal year 2023 records. Again, this is because we're in a test environment. These records should create for you like the first day of the quarter. So you should just have to come in here, find the specific year and the specific quarter that applies to the time frame that you're trying to report on. Double click on that record and it'll pull up. If you guys report your spend to the Hub spend reporting system, then these reports will actually come pre-populated with the data reported to that system. And if that's the case, then you'll actually just have to kind of scroll through here and click on any fields that don't make, like if you're like, oh, this isn't actually right anymore, you can click on a field and update it. These fields on the left-hand side that don't have lock symbols are the actual fields that are editable. Anything with a lock symbol is not an editable field. So that includes these top fields and then these percentage fields on the right-hand side. These locked fields usually calculate based on the information listed on here on the left-hand side. But just as a note, if you do make an update, it won't automatically update for you until you click this save button up here. So let's say, hey, we actually did $1,000 of purchasing for commodity purchases that falls into this Asian American category. You'll notice that the percentage is still at 0. Nothing else is updated. But once I hit save, you'll notice that the Asian American percentage updates. So essentially there are 3 categories or 3 sections here. There's the term contract purchases, and then there's all the various Hub certification categories and whatnot underneath it. And then there's the commodity purchases, and again, the different categories of the certifications and ownership and whatnot, and then service purchases. And essentially, once you're gone through and you've reviewed all 3 categories, you can come up here to this top command bar, and then if you hit this approve button, the status reason should update, and our approved by and on date should update as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click this approve button because I've reviewed it. I made 1 update and it's good to go. And I'm ready for it to be kind of sent over to the Hub office for them to approve it. So you'll notice that our status reason updates to submit after I hit the approve button, and the approved by updates to the user who approved it, and the approved on updates to the date and time that it was approved. Before I hand it back to Jeff to kind of go ahead and end this, Lauren, were there any other questions that came in through the chat?
I don't have any questions yet, but we'll let you guys know if some come in.
Righty. So Jeff will be taking over the screen share here, and he kind of has some next steps for you guys and some final takeaways.
Okay, thank you so much, Zach, for a great demo there, and Lauren for handling the chat. A couple just next steps. Again, July 10th is the go live. You'll be receiving emails, kind of a pre-go live email to kind of get you set for a couple things beforehand and what to do when you first sign in and what those URLs are and all of that. We will be following up this session in time soon with a link to the recording of this, as well as written answers to all the Q&A, whether we discussed it on screen, whether it was answered in the Q&A. There are a couple things we're going to check with PNC before we respond to those. So if you didn't get your questions answered right now, those will all come out in a written form for you soon, but I think we covered most of the things. And then there is another session, the same session that we have today, another version of it next Thursday. So if you wanted to come back, or if you have coworkers that were unable to attend this next Thursday, you can attend that as well. So as we leave you, just want a couple takeaways here that you can leave with. So first of all, no more discovery and auto posting. So if you, just to reiterate, you're still going to do your sourcing project, you're still going to send it to PNC or DIT for all of those approvals. And when you're ready to post, instead of that discovery page, if it's intended to be posted publicly, you're going to add the special NCE procurement sourcing user as an invited supplier. There's only one that you always use. It's that one. And then once you publish it, it will take it on over into eVP. You'll have access to it in the back end. It will push it out publicly to the vendors. Registered vendors will then click on intends to participate, which will automatically put that exact vendor on the suppliers tab, and they will have access to respond to your sourcing event via their Ariba account, just like they always did. So that is, instead of clicking the respond to discovery link, they click intends to participate on eVP, and they will get an email that says, all right, you can now respond to this. And there is logic built in that if you do select either a waiver competition in a non-IT or one of the IT SOWs, RFQs, or exception only, that will not bring that over into eVP. So it's not publicly posting everything. You don't want those publicly posted. In those cases, you select the specific vendor you want, not the e-procurement sourcing one. It would be vendor X, it's registered there, and they will be the only people invited to respond to that solicitation, and it never gets posted out publicly so other people don't see it. Never has to go on discovery for 30 minutes, anything like that. So this is really the automation, and then the ultra security on sole source stuff is really going to be a good thing. And again, your approvals still going to happen in sourcing, and for contract extensions that automatically get posted, still going to happen in contracts. So all of that's the same. And the last thing that we always want you to know is we're going to be here to help you after go live and leading up to go live if you have specific questions. Our help desk is ready to help, continue to help in sourcing and contracts. We'll begin to help on the eVP side as well as your vendors. So as you get into this the first time, always new learning things, but I think down the road, once you get used to the new interface, I think this is going to be a really nice benefit for state users as well as PNC and DIT, and then the vendors, everyone themselves. So that is it for our session today. We really thank you for taking the time, and we wish you good luck in the next couple weeks, and then once we go live with this, but it's going to be a great new thing for the state, and we're going to be here to help you. So thank you very much to everybody, and we will see you down the road.